Welcome, welcome, welcome to the most important mind shift you can make in 2021, which is rejecting the thin ideal and diet culture. And so I want to start by just saying thank you for being here. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. We are busy people, learning all kinds of new things, never knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. So I appreciate you spending some time here with me this evening. We'll be going for about 45 minutes with some Q&A. Last night I went a little bit longer than that, so sometimes I get a little winded. So just bear with me or cut me off or something. So anyway, uh, to before we get started, I want to make sure that you ask questions. If you'd like to ask a question, there should be a Q&A down at the bottom of your screen or on the side. So feel free to jump in with questions. I will see them and I will either pause, I'll read it, either answer it then, or I'll say we'll address it at the end of the webinar. So we can do it that way as well. All right, so I am going to get started by sharing my screen and we will move from here. So this is everybody here is part of the Body Joyful Revolution. Anybody that signed up is part of that community of women. So thank you all for being here and thank you for being part of that community. It's such an important conversation to share something different. So this important 2021 mind shift is to reject diet culture and society's thin ideal and become a body joyful woman. And we're going to talk all about that. What kind of shifts we need to make in our perspective around our bodies and around food and around eating and all of that, and why rejecting diet culture and society's thin ideal is so important. So we're going to get started, and what I'm going to share with you today are 5 different shifts, fairly simple shifts that you can make to increase your overall health and happiness, ways to be more compassionate with yourself. There's a tendency for women to beat themselves up on a continuous basis. And then how to increase self acceptance and body confidence. So, looking at our bodies and seeing our bodies differently. And my promise is really my hope that I widen the lens and shift your perspective a little bit. What happens in society and in our culture today is that we see only one message, and especially in the new year. As we're coming into a new year, all we're seeing is the resolution boom. What are your resolutions? And I know for many people, it is around health and weight and exercise and movement and all of those things. So we get kind of bombarded by them this time of year. And if we're only seeing that message, we're not seeing that there's another way, that there's another avenue, that we can do other things. And so by this widening of the lens, it's a stepping back and taking a broader look. I think we get into tunnel vision. We look at ourselves in the mirror and we see this and this and this that's wrong with us, instead of saying, hey, there's some things over here I can look at too. So that's what we really want to do, is shift and change the focus, which then shifts the perspective. And feel free again to ask questions as we go along. Stepping into all the information that I'm going to share with a beginner's mind, just taking in what you like and discarding what you don't. I always share, this is the journey that really helped me. And as I've shared this journey with other women, a lot of things have helped them and they've taught me. And so I bring that to the table as well. And this is your journey. Take what sits for you, what feels right for you. I utilize these 2 terms, things that are heavy and things that are light. If something feels heavy, whatever it might be, that's just kind of a note to realize it's not really sitting with you. When things feel light, they're expansive, they're open, that's something that's resonating a little bit more. So just listen with an open mind and take in just a different perspective. Some of this you may have heard before. This might be a different take on some of the same things, or it might be completely different. So that's my ask of you tonight as we move forward. So I'm going to start by looking at some stats. And I'll tell you, the stats are because this is why uh, I have created the Body Joyful Revolution. This is why our message is important. And if we can start to change the conversation around diet culture and society's thin ideal, we can really help change our children and change the next generation. So these are some not great stats. The desire to be thin, to be in a smaller body, actually has its greatest growth for girls between ages of 5 and 8. And it wasn't that long ago that Melissa had shared about her, and I talked about this last night in the webinar, that her kindergartner came home from school being called fat. And fat and thin have taken on a whole new meaning. They mean other things. So it's an adjective, but it is um, equivalent when it's related to body as fat supposedly equals bad. That's what society has taught us. And so between the ages of 5 and 8, that's when girls start to feel like they need to be in a smaller body. 80% of 10-year-olds think think that they are fat. It's they're crazy stats. And the number one, this is a disturbing image, and I use it because it is disturbing. The number one wish for girls 11 to 17 is that they could be thinner. 11, 10, 11, 12 is the age for many of the women that I work with where this obsession or this start to feel not good enough, not seen, not noticed, different than others, where it starts. And first diets are started usually between 10 and 12 for many of the women. And then, are you cruel to yourself and or your body? Research tells us 97% of women, that's almost everyone, has an I hate my body moment every single day. So we're going to try to be aware of what is our self-talk like and how can we shift our self-talk, especially if we've been doing it for years and maybe even decades. So these stats are an important reason for this shift in the conversation, shift away from seeing and thinking that dieting is the answer, that being in a smaller body is the answer, is going to make us happy. And it's no wonder that this is happening because we can't get away from it. It's everywhere. You go out to eat, you talk to a friend on the phone, social media is constantly in our spaces 24/7. Uh, Magazines as you're standing in the grocery checkout line, it's magnetic. It's this magnetic pull. If you have dieting history or history with disordered eating or eating disorders, it is, it's no, I say it's no wonder, but it's almost, I think about it as like this magnetic pull. Why wouldn't you start to turn your head and look towards everything that's being fed to you? It's like I had talked about in the beginning, the focus. Where's the focus? If we're focusing on everything that's being fed in without another direction to look, we start to absorb it. It becomes what we start to believe. It becomes a belief system. It becomes us. Because it's all around us, it's no wonder we get sucked in to, oh, maybe that's the next diet or that's the next lifestyle change that will work for me. Maybe that will make me happy. That will make me successful. That will get me noticed. All of those kind of things. So just be aware of all of that as we move forward. When we don't feel good in our bodies, when we're hearing all these messages, the only thing we've ever heard is to eat less, exercise more. That is the formula to quote unquote lose weight, to get ourselves into a smaller body And as I talked about last night in the say no to diets, 95% of diets fail. And yet it's almost 100% of what we are taking in, this system, that system, this system, that system, apps, books, um, programs, lifestyle changes, right? They're all around us. And that's all we see. And so I'm going to open up, hopefully, step back and take a different perspective tonight and look at this differently. And why? Why is this important? For me, it's very close to my heart. I was diagnosed with an eating disorder at 11, and it really started because of just a series of events. I call them seeds, seeds that were planted in my brain that I was not good enough. I did not look like the other girls. I was stocky, husky, chubby, any of the words that you want to use. All of those words were utilized around me by parents, by friends, by boys in the neighborhood. And then it was at my 11th year doctor's physical that I went in and I stood on the scale, and the doctor pulled my mom over and said, "You better watch what she's eating. We don't want her to gain any more weight. She's at the top of the curve." Right? So all of a sudden, I was eating different than my brother. There was a restricted environment at home. I knew something was wrong with me. And then going to shop, I connect these two incidences very closely because they were very close together. I went to go to Sears. I'll never forget it. To go shopping for seventh grade clothes and not fitting in to the regular section and having to go and find husky clothes and starting seventh grade in clothes that are different than all the other kids, still kind of feeling invisible. That's where my first diet started. That's when I started to exercise in my bedroom, eat less, be deceitful, and ended up with a diagnosis of anorexia nervosa. Spent some time in the hospital. Thank goodness for my mother. I credit her for saving my life in the 70s, figuring out what was wrong with me and then getting me the help that I needed. The thing is, there wasn't really a psychologist or a psychiatrist that could dive into exactly what was going on with me. I started to function, I started to eat enough, and yet I was continuously obsessive. I had an obsessive compulsive behavior. So I shifted it from food to soccer. So I played sports, and then I went into fitness and spent 30 plus years in the fitness industry, where I figured if I went into fitness, then hey, I have to look a certain part. I had to play the role, and it fed my disorder even more until my body broke down. And as I couldn't really do what I wanted to do anymore because I had a knee issue in college that just got worse and worse and worse from high impact aerobics and pounding and pounding and pounding. And it got so I went to the doctor to actually get my tibia broken so that they could line up my leg and I could continue to pound on it. And when he told me he couldn't because my knee was too bad, I sat back. And after that surgery that I didn't get, I was there waiting for it, but I did not get it. I said, there's got to be another way. This isn't working for me. The way I've been living isn't working. The 2 to 3 hours of exercise every day, the always counting, the binging, right? The seesaw, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight. I was just tired and done. So it was at that point, after I started to do some soul searching for myself, that I changed my whole direction and went back to school, became an eating disorder specialist and intuitive eating coach. Realizing it wasn't just about eating and exercise, though, I knew there were other things. and other things, including self talk, the way we talk to ourselves, self compassion, self care. How do we take care of ourselves? And how do we think about ourselves, our body image? What do we think about our bodies, and where does that come from, and why do we think that way? So I really shifted my whole trajectory of where I was going from fitness instructor for 30 plus years to, hey, I was part of the problem. And I decided I didn't want to be part of the problem anymore. I wanted to be part of the solution. So that's where I stepped in and started shaping perspectives to change the perspectives of how we see ourselves. So I'm going to pause for a moment here, and I'm going to have you sit comfortably, relaxed wherever you are. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, or you can take a, you can look at this lovely sunrise. And I have you take a moment to visualize. I'd like you to visualize a couple of people, two or three people that you really like to be around. They can be spouses, they can be friends, they can be family, they can be colleagues, doesn't matter. People that you like to be around, people that you like to hang around. As you visualize these people, I want you to think about why you like them. What is it about them that you like? Why do you like to be around them? Spend time with them, be in their energy, be in their space. What are their traits? What are their qualities? What are their personalities like? What kind of things do you like? And as you're thinking about that, just take a moment and, you know, see those things in your mind. And then I'd like you to ask this question: do any of them have anything to do with the size of their body? And as you take another deep breath, just noticing that what draws us to others are things other than weight and size and shape. So as you flip the table on that, thinking about a couple of people that like you, that want to be with you, that want to spend time with you, what is it about you that they like? And try here to be curious, non judgmental, just open up kind of that beginner's mind. What are your own traits and qualities that you share with others that bring you closer to others? And do any of those things have anything to do with the size of your body? For the most part, the answer as we do this exercise is no. So just take another deep breath and just take that in for a second. This can be really, can touch up a soft spot in your heart because all of a sudden you're seeing something different. And that's my hope, is that you start to see other people and see yourself in a different light. You see something else. And here's the newsflash: it's not really about the weight. Society and culture has put a bigger value on weight, size, and shape. And health and weight are not connected. There are plenty of people in larger bodies that are healthy and plenty of people in larger bodies that are unhealthy. There are plenty of people in smaller bodies that are healthy and plenty of people in smaller bodies that are unhealthy. We never know what's behind a person's weight. We don't know other people's stories. We're all uniquely individual. And it's our traits and qualities, those are the things that we bring to the table. And that's what we're trying to kind of infiltrate into society. It's not about weight, size, and shape. It's about who you are and your talents and your gifts. And so we're going to shift perspectives and take a look at 5 different things. When I started to shift the way I was thinking about all of this, I realized that the food and the eating and the exercise, which is the only thing that I ever knew, it's what I went to school for and what I was trained around, that's part of it, but it's really almost out the outskirts. There are things that are much more important. So I want to talk about these 5 different steps. I call them steps, but 5 different things to take a look at. And I'm going to try to open up your eyes a little bit so that they may appear different or you hear them differently. So we're going to start off with supportive eating and eating intuitively. Last night in the webinar, we talked a lot about why diets don't work, and we really dove into some of the physiology around that. Eating supportively and eating intuitively is really starting to tune into your body. We get very early in life, we get disconnected from our natural physiological hunger cues and fullness cues. And so, intuitive eating, there's 10 principles in the intuitive eating book. Evelyn Tribble and Elise Reich, great book. So, if you haven't read it, it's a great book. It's called Intuitive Eating. There's 10 different principles within that book. The baseline is let's start to tune into our own bodies. What does hunger feel like? What does fullness feel like? Um, are you satisfied with the foods that you eat? When do you eat? Why do you eat? Do you eat emotionally? Right? What is connected to food and eating? Are foods good and bad? Right? So disconnecting the good food and the bad food and starting to realize that food has two purposes. One is fuel. It fuels our body. So I always think about food as fueling our body. When I eat, I am eating to make sure I have the energy for whatever I've got coming up. And it's for pleasure, celebration. We we meet around food. Like there are things that brings us together and brings connection to the table. And it's about a lot of times it's about the connection as opposed to the food. As a kid, I know Thanksgiving for me was a horrific period of time. And now it's completely different because it's around gathering and gratitude and togetherness versus, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? How can I not eat? All those other voices in your head, right? We have built kind of in us our bodies physiologically when we are not eating enough food or when we are depriving or restricting, falling into diet culture, $72 billion a year industry. We also increase our stress level. We have internal stress and external stress. External stress, especially this year, never knowing what's going to happen. We have external stress. There is a lot of things that we cannot control around what stressors we have coming at us. Internal stress are things that we do have some control over. Internal stress would be not getting enough fuel, over exercising, damaging our bodies. Those are stressors that we do have some control over. So, this eating intuitively and supportively is really starting to say, what does hunger feel like for me? What does fullness feel like for me? Can I even the playing field when it comes to food? And releasing the goods and the bads and rejecting the diet mentality, letting it go. If 95% of diets don't work, why do we continue to turn in that direction? Why? Because it's all we see. It's time to change the conversation, and there is a different and better way. And that's tuning into your body and releasing the goods and the bads and trusting your body. So, this is kind of this step one, listening to your body, its wants and needs when it comes to food. And, there's a lot, obviously, there's a lot of nuances underneath this with emotions and emotional eating and different things like that. But the key here is dieting isn't the answer, it's trusting our bodies and allowing our bodies to trust us. With dieting history, it's our bodies don't trust us anymore. If you're not giving it food, and then you're giving it food, and then you're not giving it food, and then you're giving it food, and if that goes on and on and on, the body doesn't know what's going on. So it starts to protect itself by holding on to weight and saying, I'm going to protect you. So we lose trust with the body, and the body loses trust with you because it doesn't know what you're doing. So that's step one. And I shared this one last night because this was my first text when I first started coaching. And I love it because Eliza was not allowed sweets as a kid. And she'd hide sweets and she'd be eating, kind of binging on sweets, chocolate specifically. She'd hide them in her purse and she'd hide them in her desk at work and she'd hide them in her home. And then as we started to let go of sweets being bad and started to add them into her day, all of a sudden she wasn't obsessed with them anymore. And yes, she had them, but she didn't eat them in secret. She didn't need them. She didn't crave them. It was more of just her natural part of her day. Step two, I get a lot of people having a tough relationship with movement. As you saw before, I spent a lot of time in the exercise and fitness field, and I have removed kind of exercise and fitness from my vocabulary. It's more about moving and playing and finding joy in movement and play. And what does that look like? One of the turning points for me was this um, learning some drumming. So there's a quick question. I love that drumming. Yes, drumming is awesome. Um, so the drumming is a lot of fun, but it was the very first time, I will tell you, in the 30 years of my fitness career that I took my first class and I never looked at the clock. I never thought about my heart rate. I never thought about anything else. I just was smiling and having a good time. And it was like this light bulb went off. This is what exercise is about. So we're disconnecting, right? We're disconnecting exercise and saying, what kind of movement becomes a want to versus a have to? We are told, and it changes all the time, and it changed for the many years in the fitness industry, and it's always changing. You need to work out this hard for this long, at this beats per minute, uh, with these type of exercises. There's all these have tos, and so when something's a have to, think about that. You have to do this. There's a tendency to say, I don't really want to. So we want to try to find things that work, movements and play activities that work with your body. Stuart Brown is a play researcher and no relation to Brene Brown, but they have worked together. But Stuart Brown says the opposite of depression is play. And I thought that was really interesting. So what does your body like to do? How does your body like to move? Nobody else's body, just yours. And that's where we want to start. And so when I was in this disconnection mode, I also realized it's really important to be able to function, to be able to do the things we want to do, to be independent. And so I came up with this little formula that I'll share with you. And it is, I call it the 2 by 2 by 2. And I know I try to release numbers. But this is a kind of gives you a little bit of a structure. And this 2 by 2 by 2 encompasses three different types of movement. And we're going to actually, in the Body Joyful Revolution, we're going to start next week. I'm going to talk about this on Mondays for the next couple of weeks. Um, but walking is one of those essential movements that if we keep walking, we can keep walking. It allows us independence. And that's one of the things that we do one of our first exercises or movements that we do when we're young. And if we can continue to do them, we can do them into our senior years. It's when we stop walking and stop moving that we all of a sudden our world gets smaller and we lose our independence. So this is a walking, a play, whatever you like to do, whatever that looks like for you. And then what I call fit moves is, what do you want to be able to do with your body? Do you want to be able to get down on the floor and play with grandchildren? Do you want to be able to travel? Hopefully, we'll be able to open up the airways and start to do some travel. Do you want to be able to um, swim? What do you want to be able to do with your body as you get older? And Fit Moves is designed to strengthen the muscles and stretch the muscles that you need for the work that you do, whatever that might be. So it's actually kind of a um, step back approach. I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z with my body. Okay, well, what does that look like? Do you need strength? Do you need flexibility? Do you need endurance? What do we need? And then Fit Moves is a very functional based type of exercise work that we're really um, diving into strengthening the muscles that you want for what you want to be able to do with your body. Uh, do you want to be able to continue to walk upstairs? Do you want to be able to carry things? What does it look like? So Fit Moves is a functional, strength based kind of, we figure something out for you, right? If we can find a way that we move our body that we like, that doesn't feel like a chore, it becomes part of who we are, becomes part of our day, which makes it sustainable. So I started with these two pieces. This is the intuitive eating and this movement and play, which used to be, you know, eat less, exercise more. We're looking at these two pieces because they are important components in living a healthy life. And now let's move into some of the, I believe, even more important components. Um, I always forget that these are here. uh, Jennifer, one of my clients, and I think some of you know who Jennifer is. All we did was shift her mindset from having to exercise to being an active mom. And so she became very intentional about all the movement she did during the day. She became intentional about cleaning. She became intentional about taking care of her kids. She became intentional about playing with her kids. That became part of her movement. Intentional about walking down to the post office, walking down to the post mailbox and back. So it just made all the difference in her mindset, because all of a sudden she realized how much she was actually moving in her day, and she became conscious and intentional about it. Okay, this is, you hear it all the time now. This is a really popular shift that's happening, which I'm very grateful for. But we're talking about how can we use a different language for ourselves. Remember the slide I showed you before? 97% of women have an I hate my body moment every single day, beating ourselves up, um, constant inner critic. You've heard the term inner critic. mean girl, lots of different terms. So, how can we shift the way we talk to ourselves? And I want to talk a little bit about this because our our voices, the voices that we have in our brains, have been around a long time, and they have a lot of ammunition. They know exactly what to say. One phrase can set a series of phrases off in our head. And so I'm going to give you another visualization. So if you, I know there are a couple of people here from that met me at Green Mountain, so you'll remember this analogy, but I think that this is a really important piece of information to understand. If you're 5 years old and you break a glass and somebody calls you, and I'm using this because it happened to me, um, and your brother calls you stupid, you're so stupid. And so if I internalize, I'm so stupid, I've just heard that for the very first time at 5. Now visualize a nice grass field that's been freshly cut. And I'm standing on one side of the field and I walk across the field and I say to myself, I'm so stupid. I'm walking across the field. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. And then I turn and I walk back. I can't believe I do that. I'm always doing something stupid. Why am I always doing that? So I'm walking back and forth across this field, maybe 10 times in that 5th year because it's in my brain, because I've internalized it. If I continue to keep that verbiage year after year, decade after decade, what happens to the path? And this is an analogy of our pathways that we have formed in our heads about body size, about um, smart, intelligence, about whether we're good enough, whether we're worthy. All of those pathways have been walked over and walked over and walked over. So we have it's almost initial. If I break something today, boom, does that come right back to me? I have to be vigilant about being aware of it because it's been there for 50 years. Why wouldn't it come back? Right? I've walked that path for 50 years. So think about the fact that we have these pathways and we also have the ability to change our path, change and our it's called neuroplasticity of the brain. We can change the way we think, but it takes some effort. So I have this pathway that I've been walking on for 50 years. It's beaten down, right? So my path is beaten down and all the grass has grown up around it. If I decide to start to change my language and say, I'm not stupid. Oops, I wasn't looking what I was doing. I'm okay. Neutral, something neutral. And I turn and I try to create a new pathway in the tall grass. It's not very comfortable. It doesn't feel good. I don't like it. This is much better. That's why our pathways stay because they're easier, they're familiar, and they're more comfortable. And the thing is, if we don't change them, they will continue to stay, especially if it's connected to body size, body shape, body weight, because we have all the other external messages coming at us as well. So, what I have done with this is I have these, I have my two little inner characters, right? I have a mini me and a maxi me. Mini me is my old pathway, um, the degrading, beating me up, criticizing, judging, comparing voice in my head. Maxi me is my strong, compassionate, kind inner voice. And so I split them. And how do you so the key here is number one, looking at how you talk to yourself, how you talk to others, and how you are as you talk as you are in those spaces. So I have this, what kind of energy do you bring into the room? Because I think it's really important. Oprah has a thing above her office that says you're responsible for the energy that you bring into this room. When we are beating ourselves up and, and criticizing and judging ourselves, our energy replicates that. So if we're in that kind of a degrading space, other people feel it too. Children feel it too. Spouses feel it too. Other people feel it too. So really starting to take a look at how you talk to yourself. At the end of at the end of the webinar, I have a free gift that I'm going to share with you that really, even though it's the simplest thing to do, but it seems silly and it works. The only way we learn the language that we have in our heads is because we're surrounded by it. That's what we hear, that's what we take in. So why not take in different words? And so I have a resource for you to share that allows you to take in some different words, allows you to flood the brain with some other types of thoughts versus the ones that we are so used to, those pathways we're so used to walking on. So this is step 3. We have trusting our bodies when it comes to eating. We have moving our bodies with joy and what feels good to us. And we have shifting our inner dialogue. Next, yep, I have some of these are so great. Um, I love this. The pause creates the time to notice and change my inner mean girl. I've decided she's no longer allowed to drive the bus. Great analogy. This is what I learned from a client. She was allowing her inner mean girl to drive her bus, thus bring her energy everywhere she went. And as soon as she was able to pause, notice, and be aware of that inner mean girl, she was able to change the dialogue. All right. Number 4, appreciate your body. Like I started with the very beginning, we are focused on what I don't like, what I can't do, what I hate about my body, as opposed to what your body can do, what you do like, what you are capable of. So, can we step back and change the focus of how we see ourselves? So, this is step 4, looking at and appreciating your body. In the beginning, I called it body AA, body acceptance and appreciation. Really taking a different look at our bodies. And my analogy, and I posted this in the group not that long ago in the Body Joyful Revolution. I posted just a little live video about my good gift, bad gift scenario. If for Hanukkah or Christmas or Kwanzaa or whatever you celebrate, you got a great gift, what do you do with it? You wear it, or you take care of it, or you eat it, or you cherish it, you enjoy it, you like it, you take care of it. When you get a not so good gift, what happens to that? It might get tucked in the closet. It might get regifted. It might um, get in the back of the car on the way to Goodwill. It's a natural subconscious action to treat things we like with respect and to not necessarily treat things we don't like very well. So if you are constantly beating yourself up or hating on your body or judging and criticizing yourself and your body, you're treating yourself like a bad gift. It's almost a level underneath where we just don't tend to respect and honor ourselves. So how can we start to look at ourselves by changing our dialogue as a good gift and shifting the way we talk to ourselves? Looking in the mirror and speaking in gratitude or in acceptance or in appreciation. What does that look like? As opposed to the pathway of the negative voice. Okay. Last step, and then I have a little bit more to go. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. Engaging in self-care strategies. Stress impacts our weight, period. And we have a lot of external stress, like I talked about, that we cannot control. How can we control our own stress? How can we tap into our own parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest, our relaxation phase? By taking care of ourselves. By taking care of you, it creates a ripple effect to everyone around you. So when I talk about self care, think about your good gift. Think about taking care of your body. Sleep, fuel, hydration, oxygen, movement, laughter, getting the basics. This little baby just makes me smile. Are you getting the basics? When your mood starts to tank, when you're turning to the fridge for food, when you're beating yourselves up, are you check in with your basics? Are you getting your basics? What does that look like? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you fueling? When was the last time you ate? Have you moved? Have you gotten outside? Have you drank water? All those questions, pausing long enough to ask those. And I consider a self care essential implementing some type of simple gratitude practice. There was a research study done, I want to say I heard it from Brene Brown, where if you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror and the first thing you do is criticize yourself, you will see and find criticism the rest of the day easier. It's more magnetic pull to you versus getting up in the morning and looking in the mirror and appreciating, sharing some gratitude, or giving yourself even a compliment. You're going to see more of that throughout the day. You'll be grateful. You'll be appreciative for the rest of the day. So I have these, I consider these basics, and then so what feels like to you? What feels like something you can do around that? And then are you taking care of yourself? Today was Treat Yourself Tuesday, right? So how do you take care of yourself? What brings you joy? What relaxes you? What do you lose yourself in? Singing, dancing, playing an instrument, um, taking a walk, playing with a pet, writing, drawing, reading, taking a shower, funny movie, whatever it might be. But taking time and balancing our productivity and our work with our own self care. Because by doing that, it's you filling your cup so that your energy walks with you. So it's the positive energy, the compassionate energy, the caring energy, the kind energy that moves with you throughout the day. One of my clients has developed a very interestingly enough amazing relationship with her kids because she started to take care of herself. She was always putting them first, like we tend to do. And once she started to put herself first, she became a model for them. And it actually improved the relationship with her children. So this mind shift, this 2021 shift of mind, this is the world I want to see. So imagine a world where food is just food. Food's just food. You honor your hunger and respect your fullness. You eat what you like, what feels good in your body. You eat for energy, you eat for fuel, you eat for pleasure without beating yourself up, without the shame and the guilt that comes with it. And you respect your fullness. When your body's full, you say, okay, I've had enough. Imagine a world where food was just food and where every woman can feel good in their body and trust their body and let their body trust them, where we can all respect and honor each other in different bodies and allow that to take place. where you're moving your body because it feels good and you engage in activities that you love. What does that look like for you? And when I call them joy pockets, where there are joy pockets sprinkled throughout your days through gratitude, through a change in your own self-talk, through taking care of yourself, being kind and compassionate to yourself. What does that look like? How does that play out in a world? How would we be as role models if we were moving with joy, eating food, and that food is just food, respecting ourselves, treating ourselves with kindness? If we don't feel good in our bodies, our only choice has been the same choice that doesn't work. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. This time of year, it is really hard because talk about flooding the brain gets flooded with a different message. We want to start a different conversation and flood the brain with a different message. So that is what being a body joyful woman is. It really is the secret to help ending diet culture, bullying, weight stigmatization, and all of this. Feeling good in our bodies and showing the world that we feel good, showing the world that there's another option, that dieting, eating less, and exercising more isn't the only option out there. And the fact is, it doesn't really even work. Let's step into taking care of ourselves, honoring ourselves, respecting ourselves, being compassionate with ourselves. And what does that look like? How will that energy model for our next generation and for ourselves? So as you step into this next year, what tools do you have in your toolbox? Think about all the different things we've talked about. What things felt like, oh, that 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 feels good to me, or that feels light. When you think about stepping into this next year, stepping in with an intention of how you want to feel. How do you want to feel in your body? What does that look like? What is a different way to step into this coming year? We never know what's going to happen, obviously, from this past year. How can we step into this year and have a toolbox of tools that work for us? Like I have my little gratitude, I have my dancing, I have my self-care, I have my self-talk, my positive self-talk. I have this toolbox of things to keep me in my bubble of energy and joy pockets. And yes, so when life hits me, because life hits, I'm better protected. Does life hit? Absolutely. Our life isn't, you know, I think we get this, we're fed this image of, well, when I get there, everything will be just great. And I always go, well, where's there? I don't know where there is. I'm always growing, moving forward. What does it look like for you? That is what the Body Joyful Revolution is all about, a place where we can change the conversation, a place where you can get support, make a different choice. So get in there and utilize the tools, post things that feel relevant to you as well, um, conversations. The community is a place of support, of a different conversation. This helps feed a different mindset. That's our goal, to feed the reject diet culture, society's thin ideal mindset. We're rejecting that and we're jumping into this, a different choice, respecting it and appreciating ourselves. And so this becomes a, the the shift of mindset that we need. One of the activities I do a lot of times is having people clean up their social media feeds, because getting onto social media, if it's making you feel bad, if you're comparing yourself and it's starting the negative self-talk, clean that stuff out, shift to something different. This is a place where you can shift to, where there's positive energy. This, and then also um, I know some of you've heard me talk about self talk. Self talk plus is, I was trained by Shad Helmstetter. He's writing an endorsement for my book. Um, this is brain flooding, very simple. You just push play and you go about your business. You aren't even really listening to it, but it's flooding the brain with positive and sometimes very foreign words and phrases because we don't talk to ourselves like this. We never learn to. We've never been taught. We don't have any strength at it. It's different. So I will be sharing this in the revolution over the course of the next coming couple of days. So you'll see it there. You get a free 30-day membership to check it out and see what you think. I always have people go to either girls or women because those are my two favorites. And then if you are looking for a little bit more support, I do have a couple of different programs. If you would like to talk to me for added support, please do that. Feel free to reach out. This living a life this way opens up so many doors. So there are two different um, support options here. One is Upgrade Your Body Confidence immersion course. It includes private coaching sessions with me, and I'm adding in a little eating foundations course with that. That's more of a DIY with some private coaching. Or I also do these half VIP days or full VIP days with me that are virtual now. They used to have people come to Maine, but not right now. Hopefully next year we'll have some people coming to Maine. But I am here for added support if people are looking for doing more of a deep dive or diving into some of these, body image, intuitive eating, self talk, any of those things. So thanks for being here. And I want to open up, I am going to stop the share and I'm going to open up for questions. If anybody has any questions, um, I am going to come back to you. Hi. And ask if anybody has any questions on what you've heard. I know that I um, gave you a lot of information. Think about the fact that there is a different way to step into 2021. What is your intention? What does that look like? And the other thing is, some of you will know, I'm going to actually finish up this. I'm going to stop record. So thanks for being here. But I also want to share one little thing that's going to be off screen. So